Hello, everybody. Long time no see. Welcome back to a new episode of the Buffaloes Breakdown podcast. I'm here with typical co-host Jake and Jack. How are
Yeah,
you guys doing?
good. Enjoying the off season. Enjoying the drama around the draft right now, and ready to jump back into some football action next week for the spring game. How are you doing, Jack?
I decided to become a huge Rockies fan. I think it's the time. It seems like they're on the up and up as an organization. So I'm just enjoying the winning streak that I'm sure they're on. I haven't looked at any of the scores or records, but I'm
Uh,
sure they're winning a lot, right?
they were actually 1-6 last time I looked.
No, that
Oh,
can't be right.
no,
That
they're
can't
a
be
I looked.
nice
right.
young organization with a bright future. So that does
No.
not sound like them.
Ryland said
And I'm
that
sure
can't
their
be
farm
right.
system is great, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I'm also
absolutely.
I'm really trying to tailor my cover letter and stuff to apply for a Nuggets head coach. So I might get there before our next podcast. Now that that position is available.
Jack almost looks like Mike Malone a little bit. You could almost
Thank
you could
you.
almost see it. Maybe
Thank
he's
you.
maybe he has an understudy or something.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
I just
I'm
need to drink more, I think. Get a little bit more of that beer punch.
yeah. I was gonna say if you are head coach, I'll take over the GM job, but I do seriously think that I can maybe do a better job constructing a roster than Calvin Booth, and
I
I'm
well,
not
and
really
poor
joking
poor Carey
at all.
Booth, dude. Poor Carey Booth
Yeah,
just came transferred back to CSU, going home, and then the next week his dad gets fired. Like he might not be going home that much longer.
yeah. I mean, portal's still open.
The portal's still open.
Portal's still open. Go get your bag, kid. Speaking of basketball, Jack and I have decided we're gonna rip the band-aid off. We haven't done a podcast talking about CU basketball in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably for the best. Not a whole ton of good stuff to say about CU basketball currently.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to start? You want to start with college basketball crown? You want to go back even further?
No, we can start with the crown. I think that's pretty emblematic of a lot of the issues that were
Yeah.
all year long.
Yeah, I mean that was awful. Getting your season, your 20 loss season revived to have to go play a coachless Villanova team in Las Vegas and just getting stomped like by Wooga Poplar and Eric Dixon. That was just not
Dude,
good.
Poplar is so fun to I loved
They're
watching
fun,
Poplar.
dude. Wooga
Poplar
Poplar's
was
a
just
dog.
he was a killer. But boy, what easier way to show like, oh, is that what guards look like? I had forgotten what KJ Simpson how that felt, and then to see that like that was, oh yeah, okay. No, we're not good. Yeah, we're not good.
Mm,
I forgot about that.
yeah, I mean, the season ended on somewhat of a high note. You beat TCU 2 games in a row, and then you knock West Virginia out of the tournament. We didn't know that at the time, and then you hang in there with Houston, which we now know is the runner up for national champion. And then Big 12 probably makes you go play in Vegas, and you just get destroyed. And to Tad's credit, I don't think he super cared. He wanted to just kind of use the game as a test run headed into next season with players that he knew were staying. We'll come back to that later. Didn't go well at all. You just get stomped. You get outclassed on all in all aspects. I think they started the game um, pretty well off the offensive boards and then just completely fell apart altogether. You lose. Well, it was what like nearly 30 points, and then you think that's the worst of it. It's on the up and up. You'd be wrong. In the coming days, Asan Jope transfers out, which I was utterly shocked by. Like that's a pure, tried and true Tadball warrior. Like that seems like a match made in heaven. A guy like that who's that long, who's that good defensively, like he checks all the boxes.
Local kid.
And then you go.
Well, I was just gonna say, and he's local, so like,
Yeah.
not like he's going home or anything. Presumably a little
Yeah.
bit of a help, but yeah, he transfers out,
And
and
then RJ Smith right after that. That's a big one.
that one
RJ
hurt.
Smith, that one hurt a lot.
He was
That's a bad loss.
he was the only guard I legitimately enjoyed watching play basketball this year. So that one sucked. Like I really liked RJ Smith. I thought he was going to develop into one of those nice secondary ball handler, knockdown shot, defender, guards. That Tad's had a few times over the years. I also feel like he bought in to the program, but I guess not. Also, he redshirted already. Like Tad gave him a full year to redshirt as a scholarship too. So you'd hope that that was going to be his trajectory. It was not, which is too bad. Like I really do think that he and Hammond were easily our best guards this year, but I had a lot more fun watching RJ Smith, probably because there's less expectations on him. But that's gonna suck because C was already not in a great place in the back court and looks to not continue to be in a great place in the back court. I have no faith that they have the budget to compete in the portal for any sort of meaningful point guard that makes a difference. So we're going to be relying a lot on five incoming freshmen next year, and that freaks me out.
Yeah, and they're all like combo guards. I know Sam joked about let's build the whole damn roster out of combo guards, but he's not wrong. Like,
Well, this is where I show my age. That's the most tabloid thing of all time.
I know.
He doesn't really recruit true point guards until McKinley Wright. Like McKinley Wright was one of the first. There's nothing else he can play, and then it worked out. That was 7 years of the program with McKinley Wright to KJ Simpson. That's a great
Yeah.
pipeline. Um, but this is a lot more classic Tad of like I'll teach them how to dribble, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't.
And that's fair. That's fair. Only good thing right now, and I'm gonna fucking jinx it by saying it, pardon my language. Bangot Dak is still in Boulder, time of recording. But I'm horrified of him leaving, just because he's for sure gonna get a ton of money offered to him. He's worth
Yeah.
the price of admission alone, but he's still around for the time being.
So, like you said, this is a 20 loss team. So, in terms of like departures, you lose Baskin, you lose Yakumovsky, you lose Hammond because they're all aging out. You lose, well, I guess maybe potentially don't lose Elijah Malone for the same reason. And then right now, Diop and Artis Smith are the only two in the portal. This team lost 20 games last year. So losing players off a 20 loss team is not worst case like I don't think any of these are replaceable. The problem that you're going to run into with Colorado basketball, as always, is like this is Tad's worst year. We know this is Tad's worst year. Part of that there's a million different reasons for that, but also like this is he is the ceiling of the program too. So if this is his worst year, just like if this is his worst roster, I get very worried about like, oh, I don't know if CU basketball has the money, has the prestige, has the want to replace even people at RJ Smith or Sonny Diop level, which freaks me out. Like that's what's scary to me is like, do you think we can compete in the portal at all for any guards that do anything? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe the house revenue sharing helps. But like that's freaky. These technically are replacement level players. We should be able to re-up on that. But right now, I think the only guy that you have to absolutely have to hold on to is Bangot Dak. If they hold on to that, then that's something to build around. He's exciting. He's very fun. If he also goes, then we're in full blown like, oh, something needs to shift drastically mode.
Yeah, I will say the expectation is that Elijah Malone stays, and that's my understanding. So I would, if I was a CU fan, I would expect to see him back next year. But yeah, at this point in time, there's no way that you're going to be able to specifically compete in the portal for guards, and that's what you need more than anything. And just with the amount of money that gets allocated to basketball NIL at this school, you're not going to get anybody you're not even going to get anybody from like a mid major to a low major. Like you're going to have to go to D2 and NAIA like they did this year. You know, it's and you can absolutely find great players at the D2 and NAIA level, but it's definitely harder and it's definitely a lot riskier. You know, we kind of saw it this year where you
Yeah.
know they go and snag some guys from that level, and they're banking on those guys stepping into the Big 12, arguably the best basketball conference in the country, and that's a big step. It's hard to do that, and well, we'll have to wait and see. A lot to be developed. Anything else about basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I think the season's kind of was not fun to watch. And I like if we're doing an overall like season recap, obviously this is Tab Oil's worst year. Also, it felt like um, I don't know. I feel kind of bad because I think he carried water for a pretty bad basketball football team for a long time, and I feel like this is now a Deion Sanders town. Not that that's a bad thing, but it just felt also to me, and maybe this is a personal problem, that it was less engaged of a fan base this year than it has been in prior years. That might also be because we're coming off the greatest season in school history. So like maybe it's just a come down from that, and it's a pretty hard crash. Um, but I hope that changes with the house settlement. I think that's our next big hope is that um, through those payments, like we're able to get a slightly more parity playing field. Um, Not only is the Big 12 a really good basketball conference, they're a basketball conference that spends a lot more than the old Pac-12 did, like a lot more. Like these people invest into their basketball programs. The money that Tech puts out, and Tech's not even like a top three program in the Big 12. It's
Yeah.
insane. Then you have Arizona. Arizona State has an insane amount of money because Bobby Hurley has that weird Adidas connection. Kansas is obviously going to be Kansas, which is and Kansas State has deep pockets. Like a lot of these people have really deep and engaged basketball alumni that CU just doesn't have. We just don't have it. We're trying, and I would love to do the Trey Young Oklahoma thing where Trey Young donates $1 million and he got a assistant GM role within the Oklahoma basketball team. Derek White, please, please, Derek White, please. Dinwiddie has some money, right, from his $136 million contract. Like that would be great. I doubt that's going to happen for CU because I think really the only way that CU is going to compete in the Big 12 is if something drastically shifts parity wise for cash or for NIL. Other than that, Tad's going to do the best they can until he retires. So that's kind of what the season felt like. Like, oh, we're back with the big boys, and this is what it felt like. Whoops, this is what it felt like.
Yeah, yeah, I do miss the Pac-12 in basketball. We'll say football. Shifting gears. Speaking about money, uh, we have some stuff to talk about, don't we, guys?
Speaking about even more important money, aka our important money, um, let's take a break and we'll be right back.
You
Nailed it. Nailed it.
got it. You got it. Okay, and we're back from ad break. All right, Deion Sanders contract. Let's do it. 5 years, $54 million. What are we?
Yes.
What are we thinking? What are we
Well,
thinking, folks?
let's officially reintroduce Jacob back into the podcast. We're back. We have the full group.
I'm back. To be honest, I'm not tapped in with CU basketball as much, so I'd save you guys me BSing my way through that. But yeah, we do have big news to talk about with football. $54 million. How do you guys feel about it? I personally, I mean, personally think Dion's the right guy. I think the question is that dollar amount the right price tag?
I
Maybe
I
not.
don't. What do
Hmm.
you think, Jack? I'll let you go. I'll save
Well,
myself for that.
yeah, I don't want to get into a bona fide discussion. Like, but so just to I've been doing this, or at least covering CU intently for like 10 years now, or longer, which is gross. But I've been paying attention for it since then. Since longer than that, I should say. Ryland, you've been around a while too. I know you went to CSU, Jake, but you've been around. You know what CU's reputation is at least.
Right.
What a win that I think for the first time ever, including when Bill McCartney was here, the CU's in the top five of coaches' salaries. Like that has literally never happened. CU's in the top five. Like CU is paying their coach more than Alabama is paying their coach. That will probably change the second that Kalen DeBoer has any sort of success. But for now, like separate from is he worth it or not, that is an incredible sign for the health of the program moving forward. Whether or not he is worth it, that is a signal to agents, to coaches, and their like their network that even after Dion leaves, CU has money and we're gonna pay. Like that's huge. That's institutional stability and backing that, frankly, has really not happened at least in the modern history of CU. Like Bill McCartney had to fight so hard for everything he got. um, the university leadership seems pretty in line and lockstep behind what's currently going on with the football team, which is amazing.
I've never seen anything like this. And I mean, I've been a fan of CU my whole life. Um, Nothing like this ever. Them willing to break open the bank and act like they're a big dog in college football, and really make a move to put themselves up with the big boys like Alabama or Georgia or Texas, and pay their guy that they want to stay and build the program. That's huge. That can't be understated. And to find a guy like that that's willing to stay, is also just so huge. Somebody that's willing to take the money and stay in Boulder, because whether you're getting paid like a top 4 or 5 coach in the country, like let's be honest here, Colorado isn't Alabama and Colorado isn't Texas. There isn't the wealth of NIL money and the wealth of resources that comes with that job. And Deion Sanders has said, I get enough where I'm at and I'm happy where I'm at, and this is where I want to succeed and build. And to have a guy like that take this contract in Boulder, because damn well he could have gotten just as much money, if not more, at an SEC school, at a Big Ten school, as soon as one of those jobs opens up. Florida, I know we've been talking about Florida. I mean, they're going to keep Billy Napier, at least for the time being, but like that's a kind of job where they're going to shell out the big bucks. It's crazy to see. I never thought this was possible. In the last 2 years, I never really thought were possible.
Right.
Just the amount of insane stuff.
We look back 6 to 9 months, and I think you would have said it's more likely that he gets this kind of money from another university, obviously. And I think that's ultimately where you could have seen things going with Deion if CU wasn't willing to kind of pay up, especially if we had the level of success you thought we were going to have. So for us to have that level of success, and then for CU to actually, buck up and pay the guy who's responsible for it, it's great to see. And it's something, like you said, you haven't seen in your lifetime or our lifetime, I guess. To me, it goes back to, what was it, 2021? Was that the year CU had a really off year? Or was that 2022?
Well, 2022 was the 1-11 Carl Durrell year. Shout out Cal.
2022. To me, this says we're never going to let 2022 happen again. We're using Deion as a stepping stool for this football program, and we're gonna keep advancing ourselves here. We're not going to let this be a one-off or two-off season where we started to build something and then let it go to waste. We're gonna build from this 2023-2024 run with Deion and keep pushing forward. So I think that's extremely encouraging.
I can't remember the last time there was a 9-0 vote for any football contract ever in the Board of Regents. So to keep going back to the administrative support, that's insane. That's also because of a lot of the work that Todd Salomon has done as a president, to make that case pretty decisively. And he's also very fully behind the athletic engine right now, which is also great to see. That kind of stability and support, also goes a long way to what Jake just said of like this. Coach Prime was very important to revitalize this program, but also, I think it also woke up a lot of the decision makers to be like, oh yeah, this can work really well for the university if we do what everyone else has been doing in terms of institutional backing. And that's the more important part here to me, long term, is even if Deion Sanders gives us 2 more years of bounces, like that support is still going to be there, because they've seen what can happen if the fan base is locked in. So that's that. I think I'm going to keep going back to that to answer your original question of is he worth it? Like, yeah, of course, 1,000% he's worth it. Are you kidding me? Like they put it in the press release too. Separate from the football stuff, applications are up an insane amount year over year. I can think of only one thing that's changed that quickly in that amount of time that would increase that publicity, especially applications among non-white applicants. Like that's really cool and important for the overall university. So that alone, I think, makes it pretty worth it. And then you zoom in further, dude. The Heisman just played at CU. This like that's awesome. One of the best or the best quarterback in the country just played at CU. That's awesome. That's all because of Deion Sanders. CU finished fourth in the conference, and that was a disappointment. CU's recruiting better than they ever have, on a per player basis, I should say. Like, there's a lot of reasons to say, even from a football perspective, he did pretty much the impossible in 2 years. And also, if he's indicating he wants to stay and build on that, you do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think the three of
100%.
us have got to see it, but I think people in the national media see that price tag of 54 million, and there's still a lot of doubts surrounding Deion. I mean, you look at Shador in the draft process, and he's doubted every step of the way, despite having the best completion percentage of all time, despite you know early on being in the Heisman race, despite leading a team to 9-3 in the regular
Nine and
season.
four.
He's I said in the regular season, but yeah, 9-4. That I like to forget about the BYU game and especially Shador's
It
performance in the
happens.
BYU game. But people
It
like to
happens.
discredit him because of his last name. They discredit him because of his dad, and ultimately people don't like the confidence that comes with Deion and Shador. And so when this contract got finalized, I personally I saw narratives in the national media that were saying, this price tag is too high,
Yeah.
this and that. And I think a lot of people they're not in Boulder. They don't understand the impact that Deion's had on the program. A lot of those people might not remember what this program looked like 3 or 4 years ago. And so, they see a contract that's up there in the SEC range, the high end of the SEC range, and they think, oh, that can't possibly be worth it. This is a mistake and blah, 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 blah. But to us, it's really a no-brainer. So that's awesome. And Deion was really, I think, the primary guy responsible for this showcase we got to see last week. It wasn't really a pro day. It was a showcase, right? A little bit different, I guess. But we saw some things that were a little bit unique for a kind of pro day like that. And Deion's doing everything he can to do things in his own way. And if it was up to him, the spring game would be against another real university and not just a scrimmage game. So Deion's doing a lot of things to try to turn things around and try to change things within this organization and build what he thinks to be a winning program. Ryland, what did you think of the pro day showcase, whatever terminology you want to use?
I'm just gonna say pro day because that's what I've been saying, but I think showcase is the term that Deion in the schools has preferred to use. And I saw a lot. There were 16 buffs there. There was one UNC linebacker there, which was interesting. But I saw a lot. I obviously Shador throwing was the main event there, and I thought he looked great. It was very evident to me that the goal of Shador's portion of the day was to showcase his effectiveness in like the short to medium range pass rate in the passing game and showcase how quickly he could get the ball out of his hand and put zip on the football and throw a catchable football, which he very much did over and over and over again. It was there was not a bad throw. He also showcased he can, work the long game. I know that's been a doubt from many ESPN analysts, cough, 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 Dan Orlovsky. But there were a couple bombs that he threw. Great ball placement, corner of the back of the end zone. There was the one to Jimmy, where Jimmy kind of had to lean forward to catch it and did a backflip after that. That was awesome. What did you think about Shador's portion of the day? Jake and I were both there, just to be clear.
I thought it was good. I thought he was dialed in. I thought it was, he was accurate. He was on time. I think to me, it was a low risk, low reward kind of pro day. And I say that because we're used to watching guys that are going to go in the first or second round, like Malik Willis or Zach Wilson, or one of these guys who has questions about his arm talent or readiness for the league. These guys come out and they make throws off balance. They make throws across the body. They stretch the field 40, 50, 60 yards at times. I mean, it's almost like they're trying to make their case for why they belong. And I think, when I wrote my article, Shore didn't take as many risks. I don't think it was a bad thing. I think it was a good thing. I think it says he's confident in his draft stock. He's confident that he's going to go near the top of the first round. And he doesn't see any reason to go out there and do anything other than show NFL teams what he's going to be doing week in and week out, which is hitting those on-time throws, 10 to 15 yards. And that's also what he's received criticism about. It's hitting those intermediate throws on time with pace, and ultimately doing it consistently. And I think after the Alamo Bowl game, I think you could see why, if you were a team drafting at the top of the first round, why you might have some reservations about Shador, holding the ball too long, looking for the big play, kind of passing up on stuff, not hitting throws in stride. That kind of stuff definitely was concerning for me to watch, and I think it could be concerning to the pros. And his pro day was so dialed in; it was focused exactly on the stuff that he hasn't that he didn't do in the Alamo Bowl, and the things that the critics have talked about all year. And so I thought it addressed a lot of the concerns that people have had. I thought it was good. I don't know if you got a chance to tune in, Jack, to any of the pro day, if it was Shador Sanders throwing or any of it, if you have any thoughts.
I did not get a chance to tune in, and I also have zero interest in the NFL. So, nope, I did not tune in. I did not watch. It's crazy to me that apparently that is the knock on Drew Sanders. I don't pretend to know anything about the draft. I only can evaluate what I saw, but like I don't know. I didn't see a better quarterback in college football at those like crazy weird like tiny window throws on 3rd and 7. Um, he felt good like that to me. So no, I did not watch. All I did care about and all I and what I did hear was that Draylon Miller was running routes and was performing. He will be at CU next year, and I heard he like ripped it. So that was what excited me.
I don't know what you thought, Ryland, but I thought, at the end of the season last year, Draylon Miller is kind of that utility type role. He can play receiver or running back. And I told you, despite the production in the receiving game, I thought he looked more like a running back. He's much heavier than a receiver you'd see on the field. And I kind of saw him more as a backfield guy. Um, after the pro day, I totally have changed my mind. He looks a little bit leaner. He looks like he's got more burst, and I completely take back everything I said. He looks more like a bulkier slot guy now than he does a running back or anything else. Now he looks to me more like a true hybrid, or if anything, he's improved on the receiving side of the ball. So I was blown away by that. I think he's improved a lot over the offseason.
I think when I don't remember what game it was. It was either Utah or Oklahoma State. It was one of those stompings. But when he split the safeties and caught that ball down the middle of the field, and that was the moment I was like, dude, this guy rocks. Like he's going to be awesome. And he looked great.
And the
looked,
Shador pass on that throw, layered in with between 3 defenders, split the safeties. You're right. I mean, that was that play was one that will live in my mind. Hopefully, we see Draylon Miller run more routes like that, because it wasn't until the end of the year we even saw him out there running routes.
Well, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard when you have so many receivers. You got.
Well, that was against Utah. I think he looked incredibly exciting, and I like that we got him the ball more as the season wore on. That's what you want to do with a freshman. Um, we've been talking about this, and now we've seen a little bit more. The spring practice is there and filmed, but I do think next year's offense is going to be the Miller show for both Amarian and Draylon. We've seen a little. I will save more of the specific. Like scheme talk and stuff when we get deeper into the spring ball talk on maybe on this podcast. But to Jake's point, have you guys looked at the updated CU roster in terms of like weights?
I have not.
So I think they're lying. I think they're completely like I don't think they're real, but they list Draylon Miller at 220 right now. And I just there's just no way. Like I don't think so. Because seeing him, I agree with what you said, Jake, that he looks a little bit more like he might have added muscle, but he does not look like he's 220, like for at his height at all.
Yeah.
They list Chauncey Gooden at 380 pounds, and there's just no way he's at 380. Maybe Seaton's at 330. That seems high. And then I believe every down lineman we have is over 300 on the roster, and I just don't think that's true either. So like, I don't know. It all feels a little high. If Draymond Miller is at 220 and he's doing this shit at 220, then like we need to give him the ball every possession. I don't think he is. And we should still probably get him the ball every possession. So yeah.
Yeah, I think right now in the offseason, I'd say he's probably closer to 205, 210. But last year, I would have, if you'd have told me he was 220 out there, I would have said, yeah, that's probably about right. And the fact that he was still running routes and splitting safeties was beyond me.
But last year's weights were insane too because they had Seaton at 280, and I don't know, Seaton is just never going to be 280, and it's like there's just no way. There's just no way he was 280. So I don't trust the rosters at all, the roster weights at all. I think yeah, 210 is probably where I'd cap him out at 205. The main thing to me, watching pro day, watching the scrimmages, is he looks more built or as built at least than as Jimmy Horn, who's fifth year senior going into the draft. Like Draylon is ready now. He is physically developed, and that's I mean also exciting. That's why you recruit at a high level at a high school, so you get guys that you don't have to transform their body. His body's already there, man. So I don't know. That's the main takeaway from Pro Day is like, oh yeah, Draylon Miller is going to be really, really good.
Yeah. And what did you have any other players that were kind of in the back of your head or you wanted to talk about from the pro day? Because I have one if you don't, Ryland.
I know we have the same one. All rapid fire, just a couple of things. Jimmy improved his 40 time by 0.06 seconds. Went from 44 or 446 to 440. That's pretty big. That's significant. I know he was not happy with his 40 time at both the Combine and Big 12 Pro Day. He finally has a time that he can be happy about and feel that is representative of his speed. Shiloh finally did some stuff. I know he had a bet with his dad that if he ran a sub 4.4 40, he'd get a new car. That did not happen. I think
he would never do that.
No.
That's a crazy bet. Why would he make that bet? What?
I mean, it got fairly close. It was, I think, a 4.52. Like, it wasn't, he was only a little bit away, but that didn't happen. Shiloh looks solid. I'm still in the camp where I just think he'll go where Shedeur ends up going.
I think he'll be an undrafted free agent wherever Shedeur goes if the team likes him enough.
Yes.
And they'll let him earn his spot. If you're going to earn your spot, come to training camp, win it. I think that's only fair.
Yeah. And then, okay, let's do it. Will Sheppard. Awesome day.
Yeah.
He made
Will
himself
Sheppard had
some
an awesome
money.
day.
Good.
Yeah.
He made
That's good. I like him.
I mean, for him to jump 40 and a half inches, and then my immediate question to him was like, coming into today, was the vertical jump a focal point to you? And he kind of smirked at me and he was like, no, I literally just went out there, I did some high knees and I just did it. Like I didn't prepare. So the fact that he's out here jumping 40 inches at 6'4", when like you could, like he looks more 6'5". I mean, he's a huge human being.
Gigantic.
For him to be
and he ran a 4.5,
440.
He ran he's fast for his size too. Like
NFL scouts,
he was high pointing balls. Yeah,
they aren't going to let him get past the 4th or 5th round. Like you get to a point where he's too much of a physical specimen to let him go any further. This is the NFL. I mean, Anthony Richardson, I'm a Colts fan. He went 3rd overall. I never had a season throwing more than 55% accuracy, but people take risks on prospects. Will Sheppard's that kind of prospect, 6'4.5" or so. 6'5", 40-inch vert, huge hands, tracks the ball well. He's gonna make himself a lot of money at the next level. And I think the pro day was a huge moment for him. I'm super stoked about that. And I think, him, Jimmy, and LaJonte had a solid day too. I think LaJonte looked
good,
probably the most locked in during the actual throwing session of Shedeur's pro day. I think LaJonte ran the crispiest routes. I thought, to me, he didn't make any mistakes, and that was huge. Some of the other guys, there were bad passes or kind of dropped passes. LaJonte Wester is nothing else if not productive. He probably isn't faster than Jimmy Horn. He probably isn't. He's definitely not bigger than Will Sheppard or Travis Hunter, and he doesn't necessarily have the body control and all these different things that scouts look for. But you look on paper, LaJonte Wester is always open. He's always got his eyes to the QB, and he seems to always have the ball in his hands. I think NFL scouts are going to love that too. So I hope all three of those guys do really well at the next level.
Yeah, I think that covers pro day, unless anyone else has any closing thoughts, and then we can go from pro day to the next big event, which is the spring game, which is in about a week and a half from now. What do we want to see from the spring game? We'll all go around in a circle here, but we'll tell what we want to see.
Yeah, I'll start. I think I'd like to see both of the quarterbacks spin the ball. I think it's going to be important to see Juju and Salter both kind of, throw the ball against some competition. It's going to be nice to kind of see them go head to head. Hopefully, knock on wood, they both play, but it'll be nice to see, both their arm talent, arm strength, accuracy. This will be the only opportunity we have to see those two guys both throwing the football. And from the videos I've seen on the social media and stuff, both of them are getting starter reps right now. So I'm super optimistic to see the QBs and just kind of get the eye test on them, see who looks like see who looks like the starter for the Colorado Buffaloes, because nothing is cemented yet. I think we're leaning towards Juju, but nothing's cemented yet. So it'll be nice to see those guys.
Really? That's your take? Is we're leaning towards Juju. Okay.
I,
Okay.
I think so. I think more often than not, the clips I see are Juju throwing the ball to Draylon or Amarian Miller. Like that seems to be the clips I see on my Instagram and Twitter every day.
Uh-huh.
But every third clip is Kaden Salter throwing the ball to Draylon Miller, not Amarian Miller. And so it's like, okay, I don't know who's getting the starter reps, but it's closer
Yeah.
than people thought, I think, when Juju came in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, and that's the right answer. It's also like the I don't know. That's always going to win is the quarterback battle, especially when it's as fun as it is this year. My only thing that I'm going to care about, which is going to be until we see him suit up completely, is I just want to see Martavius French. I love middle linebackers. I think he has a plan. He has a chance to be a top three player on this team, top five player on this team. And also second year in Livingston's defense, he's going to call the plays. So I guess he's going to call the plays unless maybe two have heard differently. Maybe Craig is trying to come back. Have you guys heard that?
I have not heard that.
I've not. I've heard
Okay.
whispers, but I would not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think French is like a huge ad. One of my favorites. I want to see him and I want to see Jaheim Otis. Like those are the two big guys I want to see. Because if CU suddenly becomes a run defense like expert, that would be a very fun about turn for the Deion Sanders era.
Yeah, I think that you guys hit on the two, which is the quarterback battle. Which I'll chime in. I'll actually say I think it'll probably be Caden Salter, who at least starts week 1 against Georgia Tech.
That's awesome.
I mean, I don't think Juju's going to be ready for a team like Georgia Tech. He's going to be. Will he even be 18 by the time that game comes around?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
and I would have said I throughout the process in the fall, I would have once we found out that we got both. You know, looking back at how productive Caden Salter was throughout his college year, even though he had a down year last year, I thought there's almost no way that a 17-year-old going up against this guy with 4,000 or 5,000 yards at the collegiate level, if not more. I don't know. You feel like your gut's telling you, well, Salter's going to win it off the rip, but Juju's got all this potential. And then, you see the picture of Shador handing the keys over to Juju, and you think, oh God, maybe this is closer than I think, or maybe Juju is that good. Maybe he is what everyone cracks him up to be.
I think it'll be the Juju show by the end of the season. I think at least initially that they're going to lean more on Salter. I wouldn't be shocked if Juju ends up getting a start against like Delaware or Wyoming or even maybe Houston. But I think that Salter, Georgia Tech, in my mind, which take this with a grain of salt, is probably a lock. And then everything else is play it by ear. But yeah.
Okay.
Early call. April 9th. Call locking Caden Salter in as the starter. I'm gonna
before the
week
spring
one
game.
starter. Week one starter.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, but I like it. I'm gonna at the spring game. I like it. I'm gonna hold you to this. We can go back over it when we kick the pot off again in the fall.
It'll be fun at the spring game. I will be on Ryland's side the second I see Salter like break off a run. There's no force on earth that'll stop me from loving a running quarterback in college. So the second I see that happen, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, he's the greatest player in the world. He has to start. He has to start. He just ran the ball. And that's as simple as it is. I don't know. You need a guy who can run. I just love him. I love guys who will run at the quarterback position. It's just so fun. So the second that happens, I'm going to be on Ryland's side.
Right. And so you'd think for Juju to get the start, there'd have to be a significant difference between the passing of the two of them. Like Juju's going to have to be far more accurate. He's going to have to have a better arm and a better understanding of the offense. And with him being as young as he is, and with Salter being as experienced he is at this level, with that running ability considered, it kind of paints a picture like Ryland's talking about that Salter will be the starter day one. It's interesting, and I think it'll be, those rumors and stuff will probably get really, really hot leading up to the season. So the spring game should be our first look, which will be good.
Yeah, and you talked about quarterbacks, and then Jack, you talked a little bit about the defensive line and Jaheim Otis, which is getting a lot of hype from players and coaches in spring ball. Like every opportunity they get, they tell us about how good the defensive line is, which isn't surprising if you've been following along with the personnel in that group. I'll pick the offensive line. I want to see some of these guys and see if they've continued to develop. Like obviously, you have guys like Jordan Seaton, who you're gonna be able to count on no matter what. One of the best young offensive linemen in the country. You also have guys like Cash Cleveland at center, like Philip Houston at right tackle, and like
Well, he's
Zy
not going to play,
Chrysler.
is he?
People are saying maybe like
No
you
way.
have like
Really? He tore
I
his
don't
ACL
know,
like
man.
6 months ago.
Well, we'll see, but like at
That
least
would be cool.
I think he'll play at some point this year. Maybe not initially,
Oh yeah, but he's
but
not going to be at the spring game.
not at oh no, not at the
Okay,
spring
well
game.
that's what we're talking about here, Ryland. That's what we're talking
Well, you
about.
know what
Is
I
who
mean.
you...
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Okay.
You know what I mean. Or like moving on, like Zy Chrysler, like like that's an
Yeah.
exciting transfer too. That isn't getting a lot of hype. A guy who has established himself as one of the better players in the Big Ten at Illinois. Like it's an exciting group, and if last season I know we joked a lot about how the offensive line was getting dangerously close to reaching average territory. If we can break into that average territory, I think things could be fun. So it's easy to kind of gravitate to that offensive line and see
Right.
what
And
guys are holding up and
how
what
the
guys are
offensive line plays might kind of affect who starts at quarterback. I don't want to go too much into that, but if
100%.
Salter's more mobile and the offensive line looks like it has, you could easily see him getting the start. But
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel confident that it's going to be Cash Cleveland starting at center going forward, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Jack shook his
hasn't
head no.
no, because I think Yada has been getting a lot of those snaps at center for on the well-off videos at least.
Okay.
I mean,
Um,
it's interesting.
That is
Hold
interesting.
on. Why is my
Interesting
my
group.
keyboard's not working? That's fine. But yeah, I think it's
Uh-oh.
the Yada would be a lot bigger than Cleveland, and also would be a lot more run heavy. I think as a line, if you're putting Yada next to Chrysler, who is like as run heavy as you can get, as a player, like that's what he does. Is he run blocks. So, um, I think they're going for bigger right now, but maybe that's just like them cross training and trying things out. I don't know. With three offensive line coaches, who knows what's happening? Um, I mean, he's a freshman All American, so it's easy to say I would bet on Cash Cleveland. But
Right.
from what I've been watching, he has not been like dominating first team reps.
Right.
It's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I think, from what the coaching staff talked about last year, it seems like Cash is more of a leader than he necessarily is a game changer on the field. I think they like the vocal presence that he brings to the huddle and to the line of scrimmage. I think they like his cerebral knowledge of the game, but you never hear anyone talk about his physicality or how he's pancaking guys into the ground. I mean, you hear him talk about he's a leader for us on that offensive line. So it'll be interesting to see how they move and shuffle those guys around. Because if it's anything like the last two seasons, we're going to see some guys moving positions, some shuffling around early in the year, and then maybe halfway through the year we'll finally get a group locked in of five guys, and maybe they'll be at that average level, Ryland, and we'll finally get what we've wanted for 2 years.
Well, I mean, that'd make me happy, but
Well, and this is honestly probably a perfect transition into talking about the running game as a whole. We could talk about the Marshall Falk hire. Um, Caught me super off guard growing up as an Indianapolis Colts fan. Marshall Falk was kind of a hometown hero, and not a hometown hero, but he was just someone that was obviously always looked up to, and the Colts never got a running back as good as him again. Hall of Famer.
Edgerrin
Um,
James erasure, dude.
well, Edgerrin James was a better running back for the Colts. Joseph Adai too, but I don't know that anyone ever got that legacy. We were a rookie contract and out kind of deal with Marshall Falk, so he was too good for Indianapolis. That's all right. I think you're probably right. Let's go with Edgerrin James. He took the big money in what, LA or in St. Louis, not LA. He
Hmm.
took the big money in St. Louis and left. So no, I don't couldn't blame him one bit. But having another Hall of Famer on the coaching staff is never something to gloss over or kind of take for granted, especially when the running game's been as, you know, dare I say bad as it has been. If the offensive
You
line's
don't
been
have to dare to say bad. It's been bad.
yeah,
It's been
Yeah,
the,
bad.
you
yeah,
can keep it real.
the offensive line has been subpar. The running game has just been flat bad, and we don't have to hide that. Shador threw the most bubble screens of pretty much any college quarterback in history, and it's not because he had to throw the bubble screens. It's because we had no run game. The bubble screen was our run game for most of the year. So people want to use that as a knock on Shador, but realistically, the run game was so bad that we had to use the pass game to do it. If we can get the run game figured out this year, this offense is going to be, could be very, very good with the threats we have on the outside. So Marshall Faulk's a good addition to hopefully right some of those wrongs. You guys might have a little bit more of the inside scoop though on that hire and maybe what that means for the program.
Yeah, I mean, as Jack goes MIA here, this has been something that's been rumored for a long while. Is having Marshall Faulk come in here in coach. This is a guy who's he's Deion's friend. He's been around the program since Deion's been here, on and off. Not very often, but he's Marshall Faulk has been around. And we've seen that Deion is willing to bring these Hall of Famers in with no coaching experience. Like we saw this with Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp had never coached before. Bring Warren Sapp in, and he's in a prominent position and has been for the last year. But Marshall Faulk, that's an entirely different thing. You're bringing him in as a named position coach, coaching the running backs, obviously. That's huge. That's a guy who is going to impart his wisdom on these guys and help them take their games to the next level. Having these gold jackets in Boulder, this is, this program has positioned itself as a stepping stone to the NFL. If you want to play pro football, you come to Colorado and you get pro coaching from the best pros in the world. That's the pitch. In bringing in a guy like Marshall Faulk, who is inarguably one of the best running backs of all time, that's such a huge asset to have. Not only in the coaching aspect, but in the recruiting aspect and in everything else, in the prestige aspect. There is a NFL Hall of Famer who did not go to Colorado coaching running backs at the University of Colorado.
It's awesome.
It's crazy. Like I grew up watching Deion and Marshall Faulk on NFL Network every Sunday morning. Like this is like it doesn't feel real that this is happening at my school.
And Warren Sapp on NFL Network too.
And Warren
He's
Sapp,
basically just putting the whole desk back together. I think Steve Mariucci would be next. But yeah, he's amazing. He's a legend, and he's also not that it matters too much. I really don't think it matters that much when coaches get hired or players get hired as coaches. But as a player, he was known to be one of the more cerebral running backs. He was incredible at pass protection, which is a weird thing to be known for, but a very important thing to be known for. Um, and if in case you're wondering, Flea Harrell was just hired today as Wyoming's running backs coach.
Wyoming.
So it's not
Wyoming,
like
that's it.
it's not like he was on to like bigger and better things. Yeah, I don't know. Marshall Falk is a name, and you can recruit off the name, and we have gigantic names on the staff already. He hasn't really had a cycle to recruit, but I would certainly hope that we get some guys that are coveted in from there. But that actually hasn't, I don't know, that hasn't panned out yet either on the cornerback side. After Komani, we haven't gotten any like bougie 5-star corners either. I expect that to pay off more than it has so far, but I guess time will tell. Long story short, it's super fun. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah. And then do we want to talk about D'Amato Pico as well? We can kind of quick hit this. But that's
Yeah.
even more NFL. That's even more NFL experience. You're bringing in a guy. Obviously, you're having to replace some guys. You lose guys like Dancy and whatnot. But that's how many years did he play in the NFL? I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was over a decade. I want to say it was between 13 to 15 years. Like that's a lot of wisdom to bring into a coaching staff. It's pretty cool. Like, I mean, Demata Pico is not a name that, is going to ruffle a bunch of feathers, but that's a solid pickup right there. I mean, he was coaching with Dallas
Yeah.
just a couple months ago,
Yeah.
albeit, I mean, this is a Dallas, that Dallas coaching staff was not known for being super high caliber in a lot of aspects, we'll say. But, that's a nice get.
Um, Not for nothing, his son happens to be a blue chip defensive line prospect in the 2026 recruiting class, who's visiting us directly after he visits Ohio State now. So that's also fun. Um, what's nice is he's not Falk and honestly Deion Sanders and are the only two that have like zero college coaching chops or NFL coaching chops of these former NFL guys. Like Demata Pico was on staff. Andre Garode was on staff. Both of those guys were all pros. They just weren't like names, right? Um, but it's good
Yep.
to bring them both in, and they also both were coaching in Dallas last year. So good, like fun synergy there. And also anything in the West, if you're going to recruit linemen, any in you can get at all with the Polynesian community is going to be worth it. It's just going to be worth it. I don't think Demata Pico's like that's not going to be his bag. He's going to recruit everyone, but I don't know. You get killed by those guys every year, and that's how USC built a lot of their bread on their during their national championship like dynasty run. Would be great to tap that pipeline again.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been in a conference with Utah and Arizona for over a decade. You see these guys every year and they kill us. It's good to have that in with the Polynesian community, 100%. Do we want to transition to our last talking point, our most timely talking point, um,
Sure.
which happened a few
Right.
hours ago?
Yeah.
News broke um, from DNVR Scott Proctor, and it was backed up by Brian Howell that Isaiah Augustive is no longer with the program. Very specific verbiage used there. We do not know the circumstances of the exit. We do not know if it was a transfer portal thing. We do not know if he was dismissed from the team. But what we do know is that's a big development. That is, the presumptive RB1 leaving, and your leading rusher from the previous season leaving your program. So, what are our thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think everyone saw it last year when the run game struggled. They more and more felt themselves leaning on Isaiah. Uh, slower running back. He's a little bit more cerebral himself. Very patient. Hits the hole when he needs to, and he was sort of kind of the mentality like death by a million cuts. We never really saw him break out 30, 40, 50-yard runs and take a game over. But those 4 to 5 yard gains were something that no running back had given us all year. And, I was optimistic about his future in Boulder. So, especially with Marshall Faulk coming in, I thought he was kind of the right build. He's got a run blocking build. He's a patient running back who does seem to be a little bit more cerebral. It kind of matches up with everything we talk about with Marshall Faulk. So it is a shame to see him leaving, but there's a few young guys in the room that could potentially pick up the slack. I'm optimistic about it, but it does hurt.
I like how he ran. It was super fun to watch him run the football because it looked angry. He looked mad, and I like that. I like when a running back shoots with the Marshawn Lynch style. And I don't know. He seemed to find the hole much better than Dallin Hayden did last year, better than Michael Welch did last year. And just a beast. Like he was gigantic. Physically too. That UCF game was a really good start to him. He did a really good job near the end of the year, just keeping things moving. Never was like gonna be a home run hitter, I don't think, but I don't know. You can do a lot with a guy who gets you 4 or 5 yards. It sucks. I hope at some point maybe he does come back. Um, Maybe this is a chance for Marshall Faulk to show that he can pull someone better. Like I don't know, it's Marshall Faulk. Why can't we pull someone better? But it sucks. And also, I will say, he is. It's not necessarily a compliment to say Colorado's leading rusher in 2024, unfortunately. Like he was, but also I don't know. Like what was that? 400 yards? Like 500 yards max?
Less than, I think it was 384.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's tough. That's tough.
Like that's a game for some running backs. Like, it's
That
it's
was a
pretty
game for
crazy.
Devin Neal last year.
Yeah,
I know
seriously.
exactly what game that was for Devin Neal last year.
Me too. No, I
I
unfortunately
actually
lost
wiped
that
that
one.
from my memory.
The name
Yeah.
Devin Neal is
Yeah.
gonna Vietnam flashbacks
Who
for
is that guy?
Colorado
The colors
fans.
blue and red, especially when they're stacked on top of each other like that. Even as much as I
Yeah.
hated that color combo, if Kansas ever comes out in that color combo again, I'm gonna start having flashbacks.
It was a pretty gross uniform to lose in that to lose to a team in that uniform was really hard.
We lost
And it
to
doesn't
the
help
Rocket
that
Pop uniform.
we were wearing the good uniforms too, or in my opinion, not the best uniforms, the all
It
white
was
with the
the white and
gold
gold.
face mask.
The gold
Yeah,
face
Yeah,
mask is nice.
I
those
know.
look
I
cool.
call those the TCU game uniforms, and that's what they should be known as until the end of eternity. But yeah, I mean that sucks. Losing Augusta sucks, but you still have Michael Welch. I would say Dallin Hayden left much to be desired on the table last year, but that doesn't mean he will this year. I'm not sure that they're going to hit the portal hard and try to replace and try to re up at running back after Augusta left. I think they're happy with what they have with Hayden and
Really?
Welch. I don't. I think so. I don't. Do I agree with it? No, but do I think that they may stay put at least for the time being, and then you can reassess when the summer portal starts, or maybe Marshall Faulk can just show off his recruiting chops and pull somebody big. I wouldn't be complaining about that at all.
I think they would be more content with the situation in the backfield if Draylon Miller was getting significant reps in the backfield. But Draylon
I
Miller,
mean,
for whatever reason, is running routes, even despite the
maybe that's
220
what'll happen.
frame. Um,
Well, I don't know. Not to get too deep into it, we can, but I think we're going to see more of the spring game. Like the amount of two back sets they've been already showing off on well off is like enough for me to think we need more bodies back there, even if one of those is Draylon. And Draylon could be the one that's going to run routes out of the backfield, but like if we're going to run two back sets, we have to have more bodies back there. We just need more bodies. Um, so that freaks me out.
I mean, that's very justified.
it freaks me out a little bit because it Welch is not ever going to be a pass blocking running back in my opinion. I mean, he's probably all of 5'8", 5'9". I mean, I root for the kid. I really like the way he runs the football, but I think he might be relatively limited in his usage unless he puts on, I don't know, 10 or 15, 20 pounds of muscle. Dallin Hayden is the more versatile running back we have right now, and he just left a lot to be desired last year. He just looked a step behind the hole, right? The hole would open up and he might have just been a half step behind it. And Augusta found those holes. So no, I think the concerning part is the one guy who had the body to play those number of reps and hit the holes is gone now. Dallin Hayden hasn't proven it yet, and Welch might be a year or two out from being the running back that we would want him to be. So it hurts. It hurts. I think we should hit the portal, but if right and we don't, I think it means Draylon Miller is going to be taking more snaps out of the backfield, and a lot to consider. A lot to consider. I think your take is very interesting though, Ryland.
I mean,
Something to watch.
they typically get content. Like I think that's something we've seen is something happens and you expect them to be reactionary and go hit the portal. Like I know there was an example of that last season, but I'm forgetting what it was. I don't know. Maybe I'm being stupid. I want to say,
Of late portal editions.
well, like somebody leaves and you're like, oh, it was with the tight ends. You know,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah.
I mean, that
Shimon
was a
Mateer, you
special.
mean? You mean Arizona State star Shimon
Yes,
Mateer? Yeah.
yes, and he leaves, and everyone for months was expecting them to go hit the portal hard and bring in a tight end. And they're like, we're fine with what we have. maybe that's because they couldn't get anybody with such late notice after, Chabot Mateer leaves after 10 practices. But,
Well, Pat Shermer went to Deion Sanders and he said, "Hey man, I'm not going to be running tight end sets anyway. Don't bother. We'll just stick a D end in there." I'm just kidding.
We just need smalls. All we need is smalls.
Do you have a spare defensive end that might not be playing very much that we can throw in there, or you just got a body?
Him.
Somebody that can bench 225? Anybody really?
Put him in
I
like a
think
Duolingo class.
if we just smuggle BJ Green back, then that he'll fit in just fine.
TJ Breen,
Who
new
is that?
player, 5-star
Oh,
recruit.
TJ Breen. Oh yeah. I've heard about
TJ
him.
Breen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else there is to chat about. We've hit an hour officially.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to chat about anything else. That was a
I
good
think
one.
we're good. I think we're good. Well, thanks for listening, y'all. Shameless plugs. Make sure you're following Ralphie Report on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ralphie Report on those. For the make sure you're keeping up with RalphieReport.com, our website here. We're putting out some pretty killer content at all times, especially during spring ball. We're there. We're at practice. We're in the building. So, you want to make sure you're keeping up with us for free Colorado Buffaloes news. We'll keep you up to date if anything's going on. And yeah, I think that Jake and I have been discussing doing a mock draft in the coming weeks. We'll go back and forth picking some guys ahead of draft week, which will obviously be big for Colorado fans. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for that in your podcast feeds or however you get your podcasting content. And I think that's it. Thanks again for listening, y'all. Sko Buffs. Have a good day.
Let's go.